Do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is an everlasting God, creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, and his understanding no one can fathom. He gives strength to the weary, increases the power of the weak, and even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. You familiar with that? It's Isaiah chapter 40. It's at the very end, chapter 40, verse 28 through 31. And we're going to actually come back to that a little bit later. But let me just take a second to celebrate something. I don't know if you knew what this day was. Today is a very special day. Today is August 23rd, 2026. And you know what today is? Anybody know what today is? Anybody? The Church of the Park? Guys, today's the first day of the rest of your life. We wake up every single day with that opportunity. And sometimes we're just like, no, it's just another day. But it's all perspective. And you come into this moment, you're like, wait, I get to live the rest of my life. And here's what I know. You made it to today. And what's remarkable about that is think about everything you went through to get here. Take a second and think about that. I'm talking about like some of you had a rough childhood. Some of us have been through some really bad trauma. You have lost people that you love. Can I take a second to celebrate a handful of you guys who have survived cancer? Can we praise God? Yeah. I see John, brand new cancer survivor. You went through so much, but you're here. And maybe you're still in the middle of some crazy muck right now. But I want you to know, you made it to this point. Life is crazy. There's always something that can come up and trip us up and drag us down. We're constantly caught off guard by some interruption. It's the personal stuff we go through. It's the big things that we see happening, economy and politics and education and like the big macro stuff. And it's the micro stuff like what you're dealing with in your personal self, in your body, in your family, in your neighborhood, in your community. But there's so much. Did anybody else get any rain on Friday? Let me tell you about this weekend for me and a handful of us. Oh my goodness, Friday was a whole lot of rain. We got more rain in Wilmington on Friday than we should have got. Okay, so gone somewhere else, but it all came here. And so I am so thankful for our friends that rent our building. There's a Spanish-speaking church that rents our building on Darlington Avenue on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night. And one of them called me at like 7:30 and they were like, hey, yeah, you know all that water that was outside? It's inside now. And I don't know if you know this, maybe you didn't see it on our social media, we put something up, but the inside of our building like flooded, like 10, 12, 15 feet into the building, and there was an issue with water running from the back of the building and piling, and it came in there. And so I'm like, well, that's no fun on a Friday evening. I texted like 20 people from our church, and man, they showed up, and man, within like half an hour, we had like 80 shop vacs and 300 towels, and everybody got that thing cleaned up, and we were gone, and we were celebrating like, yeah, we're done with that. Until Saturday morning. So I check out we got security cameras at our building, and I looked at the cameras, and I'm like, wonder how the rain is. And I looked at the ones at the back door, and I was just like, oh shoot. Same thing, the water had piled up, and I told my wife, I was like, hey, I'm just gonna run out for a few minutes to the building, just check on it. I'll be right back. I was not right back. Got there, it was actually worse Saturday morning than it was on Friday night. I texted that same group of awesome people. I was like, hey guys, sorry about this, but we need to come clean up water again. And so they showed up and they brought their shop vacs and their towels, and we cleaned up a whole second time, but this was not enough. We said, no, we got to come up with a different plan. So my man Miguel said, all right, we need to dig a hole in the backyard and put in a pump and figure out a way to get the water out of the back of this yard. And so we had a temporary thing put in. It was like 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon when some people finally left our church. Here's the thing. That problem solved, but guess what? There's always tomorrow. It's always something. Something's always going to be coming up and punching you in the jaw, and you just got to deal with it. So what do? And we say stuff like, "Ooh, man, life is crazy." And we say stuff like, "The world's messed up." Or we say stuff like, one of my favorite phrases, maybe you can use this when it goes like this. "I'm tired." Are you sick of it? What do we do? Like, how do we move forward? But you made it to today. And today is Church in the Park, and it's fun. And next week we're going to do some serving in the community together. And I hope if you're new to our church family today, you'll learn more about that. Come serve. It's like one of the greatest things we do as a church family. We actually don't have service at our building. We go out in the community, and we are just like, let's just be about it. We find organizations we can serve. We'll be back in our building in 2 weeks, and we'll be doing some more teaching. But like, My question for today, because I know a lot of you are here because you just got here for college. I know a lot of you are here because you're a new family and you heard there was a thing coming. Some of you are just coming off of your summer break and whatever. And you've got this fall ahead of you, and you've also got the spring and the summer and the last 30 years behind you. And you're just saying, well, what do I do to get through this again? So what I want to do today is take a look at Isaiah chapter 40, because we have a God who will get us through this mess. Day by day, by day, by day, by day. And I think there's a couple of things in there that we can put to practice in our brains and we can start to think about, and it will really help us. And so to get there, you're going to be in Isaiah. It's in the Old Testament of the Bible. Go ahead and grab it. If you did go to jointheventure.com/park, scroll down and there's like a Bible app logo. Actually, if you click on the top one, it'll help you follow Venture Church and make it like your church on the app, so you can see other announcements we might put out. But then the second link is actually Isaiah chapter 40. I want to tell you a little bit about Isaiah for just a second. Isaiah was a prophet who lived thousands of years ago, and he was a prophet to the nation of Israel. So we're talking about in the Middle East, and this is the whole region where the Bible stories happen, if you've heard those stories. And Isaiah becomes this person who is speaking the word of God, truth of God to his people. And the main message of most of the prophets was repent. It was like, hey, you've turned your back on God. Like, get your life in order and put your face back towards God and start to pursue him. But Isaiah shows up at like a really crazy time. So the nation of Israel is constantly being attacked at this time by the Assyrian Empire. And the Assyrians they are not cool people, man. They're the type of people, they just use a scorched earth policy. They would come to your village, your town, your city, and they would just wipe everything out. They would kill everybody. They would burn down the houses. They would do unspeakable things to women and children. They would put your head on a pole. I mean, it's graphic, but I'm telling you, this is the world that Isaiah is speaking into. And the Assyrians are kind of knocking on the door of Israel all the time. Well, they have this godly king named Hezekiah who rises up. He's actually my favorite Bible figure, if you ever need that for Jeopardy. Who's Christian's favorite Bible figure outside of Jesus? It's probably Hezekiah. And so this king Hezekiah, he steps up with the nation of Israel and he says, guys, we've turned our back on God. We need to get back right with God. So they're working through all that. God has just delivered them from the Assyrians in a miraculous way. Like, I wish we had 2 hours and I could tell that story. It's an amazing story. But by the time we get to Isaiah chapter 40, we see the Assyrians have been run off. These terrible, evil people. There's a breath of fresh air that's happening for the nation of Israel. And Isaiah the prophet is praising God and teaching us through this. So this is where we pick up in Isaiah chapter 40, starting at verse 1. And listen to this. Maybe it's something you need to hear. It says, comfort. Comfort my people, says your God. Speak tenderly to Jerusalem and proclaim to her that her hard service has been completed and her sin has been paid for, that she has received from the Lord's hand double for all her sin. Comfort. This is after all the craziness. Imagine if your family had just been through literal war and a siege from like an empire. They were camped outside the city walls. People couldn't get in. They were doing crazy, unthinkable things just to survive. Read the story. It's graphic. But that moment is finally over, and Isaiah speaks to the people, and he says, comfort my people, Israel. This bad season is over. God has taken care of what he needs to take care of. Comfort. Comfort comes from the Hebrew word, and one way that it could be kind of understood is kind of to take a breath. And I don't know if you've ever been to therapy, but here's your free therapy session. This will save you probably $10,000 if you learn how to do this, okay? We're going to do it together. We're all going to take a deep breath, and we're going to let it out. So let's just try that. Let's just try comfort. Here we go. I'm telling you, if you don't feel a little bit better, you didn't do it. Something about that. There's physical stuff that happens, but it's this word, comfort. And it's that feeling of a deep breath that God brings into the narrative. And as we read the rest of chapter 40, we're going to see the qualities that God brings to the nation of Israel, and I would say also to you today, if you want to live for him, that can help you get through that craziness that is life. This is a standalone talk that you could take with you any day of the week and say, what can I do to find peace in this world of chaos? And so we're going to look at 4 things, okay? And so if you're a note taker, if you should remember them, remember the 4 things. The first one is this, God's holiness. Can everybody say God's holiness? God's holiness. When something is holy, it means it's been set apart for a purpose. And so when you talk about the holiness of God, you might have all these ideas of what it means to be holy, of sure, sinless or pure or whatever. But the whole point of holiness is it's been set apart and it's not for anything else. And like maybe if you have a birthday party at your house and your grandma makes your favorite 7-layer chocolate cake and you love that cake and there's one left or slice left and it's on this plate and you say, this is my slice of cake. I have set it apart for me for no other purpose. Guess what? That cake is holy to you. Okay? That's what holiness is. And so what God does for his people is he sets us apart for his purpose, and he is set apart for holy purpose, and that means that's why he's different. He's other. That's holiness. God's holiness. And it's something to marvel at. It's like when you go to the ocean for the first time, and a lot of us have lived around here forever, so maybe like for us it would be the Grand Canyon, or to get to go in a spaceship and see outer space, the moon or whatever. Like there's this moment when you approach things that just make you go, oh my goodness. Like that's the concept of holiness. It's otherly. It's so different. It's so big. And we'll talk about the bigness of God in a second. But listen to what Isaiah says. This is in chapter 40 again, starting at verse 4. So if you're reading along, he says, a voice of one calling, in the wilderness, prepare the way for the Lord. That word prepare is key. Hang on to that. Make straight the deserts a highway. Make straight in the desert a highway for God. Every valley shall be raised up. Every mountain and hill made low. The rough ground shall become level. The rugged places a plain. And the glory of the Lord will be revealed. All the people will see it together. For the mouth of the Lord has spoken. We're talking about God's holiness, and this image, you might recognize this if you kind of know the Jesus story, especially in the beginning of the Gospels, this concept of like a voice of one crying out in the wilderness. This is a prophecy that John the Baptist fulfilled. He was that voice crying out in the wilderness. That's kind of a whole other story. But the concept of the voice crying out in the wilderness, like the king is coming, make ready the way for him, prepare. Remember that word? He says like, make low the high places, make high the low places. Why? Because we want a smooth road. We don't want it bumpy. But the cool thing about that language too is that the high places in this time, these ancient times, the high places were literally like hills where they would do pagan demon stuff, idol worship and all kinds of dark stuff. So also the concept of bringing down the high places, that's big, right? So you got this thing, make level the way for the Lord. Why? Because God is holy. And the only way to really experience God's goodness and his holiness is to prepare yourself for him. If someone famous came to your house, your favorite celebrity, favorite rock star, whatever, your favorite first grade teacher, your grandma comes to your house. You remember when you were a kid and your mom's like, grandma's coming, we got to vacuum everything. It's like apparently grandma's flipping the couch over because she knows what's under there, right? And the idea is we're preparing a place for this person that we really honor and that we really want to respect. And so when it comes to the craziness in our life, I think some of it happens because we're not preparing the place for a holy God. Yes, in God's presence, we still will experience life. He's given us that. In his sovereignty, he's let suffering happen. I don't have an answer for that. And if you wrestle with that, I want you to know this. He lets us do what we want to do, okay? And a lot of our suffering is our own doing, and a lot of our suffering is consequences of someone else's wrongdoing, right? I don't understand that. God is so big, but I can't deny his presence. But what I can do is start to prepare myself for him. I can prepare my calendar for him. I can prepare my budget for him. I can prepare my relationships for him. I can start to say, let me cut down those high places where I do evil, unspeakable things. Let me never go to that website again. Let me put down that substance that's bringing me down. Let me quit being such an idiot with relationships. Let me prepare the place. Let me rise up the low places. Let me get to a place. And so sometimes I think modern Christians, and I'm using that just like however you want to take it, we're like what does it mean to be a modern Christian? It means like, I sometimes go to church and like, I would call myself a Christian. And like, that's it. I'm going to tell you something. That is not preparing your heart for the holiness of God. It's not. I mean, literally like coming to church is actually not that impressive. You're already off work today and it's only like an hour and a half long. So it's not that impressive. It's good. I'm not saying it's bad. But like what happens on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday and Saturday? Oh, and the other hours of Sunday. Prepare the way, a voice crying out in the wilderness, make way for the king. How do we get through the craziness of life? We've got to recognize God's holiness. He's supreme. We're going to spend the most time here, and the other ones are pretty quick, but that's the starting point, the holiness of God. Before we get too comfortable complaining about life, let's just ask ourselves, where do I see myself? Am I the Holy One? am I supreme? Am I God? Because that's one of the first ways to just fall on our face. Second thing we see, we're going to see it in verse 12 if you want to look over there. But the second thing is this. We talked about the holiness of God. Say the holiness of God. Then we say the superiority of God. Say that, superiority of God. So God is superior. I don't know how else to say this. God is like big. Like really, really big. And I'm not even going to try to like grace it with fancy words because I'm going to summarize the verses like I think this was verses 6 through 8. Isaiah says basically like this. People are like grass in a field, and our holiness is kind of like flowers that pop up for a season and then fade away. And that's pretty cool. It's pretty good. There's flowers and it's beautiful. And that God is like a wind who in one breath can just blow it all down. Like that's just perspective. And so that's like the Chris summary of verses 6 through 8. But listen to a few metaphors that he uses to describe the superiority of God. This is Isaiah 40 still. Now we're in verse 12. He says, who has measured the waters in the hollows of his hand, or with the breadth of his hand marked off the heavens? Who has held the dust of the earth in a basket and weighed the mountains on scales and the hills in a balance? Look, God has no need for baskets or balances. Like this is just a metaphor to be like, he just got the whole world in his hands. You might have learned that. Verse 13, who can fathom the Spirit of the Lord or instruct the Lord as his counselor? Whom did the Lord consult to enlighten him? And who taught him the right way? Who was it that taught him knowledge or showed him the path of understanding? Surely the nations are like a drop in a bucket. They are regarded as dust on the scales. He weighs the islands as though they were fine dusts. Any Hawaiians or Polynesians out here? We got pride in our islands, right? He's like, this is like dust on my scale. There's like 8 billion people in the world, and God's like, the nations are just kind of like dust on my scale compared to how powerful and mighty I am. And that's not to diminish us, but to elevate him, to say, listen, we think highly of ourselves, and God is so much greater. God is holy. God is superior. And understanding that really puts perspective in those dark days. Because his picture is big, his scope is bigger, his ability to know what's ahead of us is larger. God is superior. The third one. Okay, so God is holy and God is superior. What should be our response to like a being of such incredible stature? Like what should we do? Well, what do we do with anyone in our life who has like stature and importance and power and influence in our life? What do we do with them? We treat them special. Like that favorite singer, that favorite, celebrity, rock star, your second grade teacher, your grandma, like whoever. And again, if they came to your house, you're going to go to great lengths to prepare for them. You make sure it's extra clean. You're going to make sure you get them special food. You maybe put things away that you normally have out in your house. This is a special thing. We're preparing this place. And so if you scale that up, that attitude, there's a word that we use for that. It's kind of a Bible word. It's a faith word. The word is worship. If God is holy, and God has all this superiority, how should we respond to that? The only logical conclusion is worship. Worship means to assign worth to something. Think about your favorite sports team. The Cowboys had an incredible preseason game against the Cardinals last night. It doesn't matter. It's not real football. But there's a little bit of worship going on in the NFL about this time, right? World Cup soccer was the other day. Man, you've never seen more hyped people than a World Cup arena going wild. And so we assign worth to these things. How much more valuable is our God, our creator, the holy and sovereign and powerful one? And so our response should be worship. So the third idea is that God is deserving of worship. Say, God is deserving of worship. So our passage today, if we skip down to verse 16, he talks about Lebanon here. There's a little Bible quiz if you kind of did Bible Bowl or Vacation Bible School. If I say Lebanon from the Old Testament, does anybody know what they were famous for? You can shout out if you know. Trees, yeah. Lebanon must have had some killer trees. I mean, like forest on forest on forest. These dudes had trees. I don't know much else about Lebanon except they had amazing trees. Everyone was building their, palaces out of Lebanon's trees, and they were building their boats out of Lebanon's trees. And so that was like his cultural thing that he's pointing out. He's going to mention Lebanon, and he's going to compare them to God's ability to be worshipped. He says this in verse 16. Lebanon is not sufficient for altar fires. Like the best trees you can imagine. Like we don't get very hyped about trees, but imagine this is like 3,000-4,000 years ago. Trees are pretty important, They're important now. The greatest trees you can imagine, and to overlay that with whatever it is, the greatest iPhone, the greatest car, the greatest thing, none of those would be sufficient to actually adequately worship our God. That's what he's saying here. Lebanon is not sufficient for altar fires, nor are its animals enough for burnt offerings. Before him, all the nations are as nothing. They are regarded by him as worthless and less than nothing. Worship of God is so valuable. What is the most important thing in your life? And I'm going to ask you, have you laid that thing down for God yet? Because if you haven't, I don't know that you've worshiped. Worship does not mean just singing songs. Here's the thing. Some of y'all hate being outside. You're like, my church family going to be outside today. And if you're here for that reason, you're worshiping for that reason, you know? Some of you are like, I don't like my neighbor. They are a jerk. But the poor old lady is 72 years old and she needs somebody to mow her grass, and I'll let her, cuss me out, and I'm just going to be nice to her. That's worship. Doing the things that God wants us to do in the face of difficulty. What do you love the most? And are you willing to assign the value of that to God and put it to work for him? For some of us, it means taking our careers and completely aiming them at Jesus. And for others of us, we see Jesus talk to another guy in scriptures. For others of us, it means laying down our careers and saying, this is the thing I'm pursuing for me. What can I do with my skills and talents for God? I can't tell you that. I don't know what you're supposed to do with what you got in your life. But my question is, are you worshiping this God? God is holy. God is supreme. God is deserving our worship. Because in the darkest moments of our life, when there's like no light to turn on, sometimes the only thing you have is a simple prayer in your heart. Comfort, Israel. You feel me? Like just being like, God, if this doesn't work out, you're still enough. If this doesn't get better, you're still enough. I'm not going to act like that's easy. I've been in so many moments where I'm like, I'd rather not do this, Lord. I would like to quit now, please. So I'm right there with you. But worship is part of the equation dealing with the mess in life. So we jump ahead. Okay, we're almost through Isaiah 40. Isaiah 40, verse 25. So to whom will you compare me? Who is my equal, says the Holy One. Lift up your eyes. Look to the heavens. Who creates all these things? Can we just take a second? Look at these trees. And just think about nature. Guys, we live near the Atlantic Ocean. I hope you take some time when parking's free to go just look at it. Go in your backyard, even if you got this much square footage and you got a house plant. There's life inside that seed, and it was put there by the Creator. Lift up your eyes and look to the heavens. Who created all these things? He who brings out the starry host one by one and calls forth each of them by name because of his great power and mighty strength. Not one of them is missing. Do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the Creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, and his understanding no one can fathom. So God is holy. God is superior. God's deserving of worship. So when I look at this, I'm baffled. This is just me. I don't know if you've been here, but it's like, okay, so God is so great. Why does he care about me? Because I am not so great. Why would he give me the time of day? Why would he look at me? I don't understand that sometimes. I'm someone who has sin in my life, someone who has brokenness in my life. How could that God be really for me? And so it's tucked into Isaiah 40, the nature of God. I actually skipped it on purpose earlier just so I could bring it up now. If you scroll back or flip back to verse 11, you see this image of this God. It's beautiful. He gathers the lambs in his arms and carries them close to his heart, and he gently leads those that have young. You see that pastoral picture of like a shepherd? And the word gently jumps out to me. I would love to do like a whole nother hour on gentle. But the word gentle is a beautiful word because not everyone has to be gentle. Do you know people who don't have to be gentle are weak people? If you're not very strong, you don't need to be gentle. You can't break anything. You know who has to be gentle? Strong people. You see a big old buff dad holding his little bitty baby like a football? That's gentleness. He's so strong, he could bend metal rebar at work all day. He could swing a hammer. He can do all this stuff, take a punch in the face, whatever. But then you get down and you can get down with a child and you can be compassionate and you can look in their eyes and you can give them a hug and you can make them feel safe. That's gentleness. And that's the image we see of God in this this little metaphor about the lamb. Why would God care about me? He's so supreme and he's so holy and he's so deserving of worship. Yet he looks down at me and you and he's like, you had a bad day, buddy? You struggling? Come here. And he's not striking us with lightning. And he's not pushing us down. If that's your vision of God, I want to just challenge that vision and tell you, you are not worshiping the God of the Bible. Because the God of the Bible is a gentle God. Yeah, he's got righteousness and he wants us to do well, and there is punishment and circumstances that happen when we don't honor him, but before all that, he's a gentle father. Which brings us to a fourth thing to get us through the hard day. That God is a God of love. God is a God of love. He's holy, he's superior, he's deserving worship, but he's a God of love. When I got the phone call about the flood in the building on Friday night, and then saw it again on Saturday, I mean, it's just a microcosm of like, not again. And I'm talking to my buddy Patrick, who played bass this morning, and I'm like, I called him first, and it's like, hey, I don't want to text these people again to come clean up the church building again, but we're talking about it. We're like, but if they can't make it, they can't make it, and they probably love nothing more than to know that our church family has a need. Look, water in the building, honestly, is the least of our problems in this world, okay? This is a metaphor, but stick with me. Because you've all been there. We got home and like the air conditioner was broken, the stove doesn't work, the internet went out, you called 911. Right? So it's first world problems, but then something beautiful happened, man. I texted that group, and within like 5 minutes, there was like 10 people like, I'm on my way, I'm on my way. The same people who were there the night before. A couple of people who couldn't make it the night before, but were able to come back later. Or some who came the night before, but weren't free on Saturday, but were like, hey, look, if you need something else, you let me know. This little snapshot is like the picture of the church. That when you're going through the hardest of hard times, God did not intend you to do this by yourself, and he's sovereign and he's superior and he's holy and he's deserving of our worship, but he is a God of love. And so we're standing there, what was it, like 1 o'clock yesterday afternoon. Miguel was in a hole this deep, okay, and he's digging, right, and there's rocks everywhere. We've been trying to get this pump installed, and it was hot and we were sweaty, but there was a moment where somebody said, isn't it great that it's not raining? That was a snapshot moment for me of like, the whole problem that brought us here was the rain. And then this image that when community came together, the rain stopped. That's not how meteorology works, by the way, okay? So like, we're not gonna stop hurricane season, we're not gonna stop a snowstorm, but just that little snapshot, I feel it was a gift to me and hopefully to you today. When we come together in the love of God, those storms are so much easier to bear. And let's say it was raining cats and dogs, it's okay. We had shop vacs and towels. We were there for each other. And I think that may be the greatest gift that God gives us in this era. And I think that's what he's saying when he speaks to Israel, when he says, do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow weary or tired. His understanding no one can fathom. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Do you need that? Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall, but those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. And they will soar on wings like eagles. And they will run and not grow weary, and they will walk and not be faint. Comfort. Comfort. Can we all take one more deep breath together? Let me pray for us this morning.